The world's constantly changing, and with the climate change that this world's seeing, a lot more needs to be done to save the environment. That's why today we're going to look at the new green tax laws being introduced and the cycle to work scheme. Basically, the race is on to save the planet, so let's see what we can find out today. I'm here at Dale's Cycle in Glasgow City Centre, and today we're going to be interviewing a member of staff, Rick. He's going to be talking about the cycle to work scheme and how it's taken the city by storm, so let's go see what he has to say.
The cycle to work scheme, I think, is probably one of the most beneficial things that we can see at the moment in terms of cycling. Cycling is obviously great for exercise, fitness. Not only that, I mean, it gets people out of their cars, reduces their stress levels on their way to work, and the fact that the government's supporting it is it's brilliant. The more that the government can do in terms of getting people on bikes, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
So I think new car tax rules will encourage more people to take up cycling.
I think already we're seeing an increase in cyclists because of that. The increasing cost of driving a car to work, certainly getting people on their bikes. Customers are regularly, explain that that's why they're coming in to take a bike. So,
can you tell us the health benefits of the cycle to work scheme?
As I said before, cycling to work, I mean, sort of a general cycle, half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, every day. That's going to increase your sort of aerobic fitness by around about 11% after 6 weeks, I would say. Not only that, I mean, cycling to work, by the time you've got to work, you've had a bit of exercise, it's relaxed you. Like I say, you haven't sat in the car trying to get to work in traffic jams and so on. So you end up with a bit more of a relaxed sort of mood, and generally I think it makes people work a bit better throughout the day. But certainly health benefits with it.
I feel that this scheme will prove effective in the long run.
We've seen a big increase since the cycle scheme recently has opened up their retail places. More people are coming in here when they weren't before. It gives people more of a choice of bikes. People don't even use the scheme necessarily purely for work. People come in and buy full suspension bikes for the weekend. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think it will carry on. And the changes that we've seen, yeah, it's increasing.
What would your plea be to people who criticise the cycle to work scheme?
It's hard to criticise it, I would say. I can't see really why people would be critical. Again, like I said before, the environmental benefits, the health benefits, there's no reason why people shouldn't be cycling, especially in a city where distances are short to and from work. People don't necessarily need to drive their cars. So.
Very much for your time, Rick. That was some good views and opinions. What do you think of the green taxes that are going to be introduced on the roads in Glasgow?
Well, I think it's a good idea. There's so much congestion and it'll be better for the environment, so yeah, I'm in favour of it.
Do you not think that it'll affect people with bigger families and stuff,
Well, maybe, but they're affected anyway, so we'll find a way to deal with it.
Be paying an extra $1,300 a year?
Nobody will like that bit of it.
But definitely not.
But it's the same with taxes. You need to pay in order to get public services, so there's always a downside, but it might be worth it.
So I went to see Patrick Harvey and find out his take on the green taxes. Let's see what the man himself has to say. Families with more than 4 members will suffer because they have to pay an extra £1,300 a year because of the green tax.
The introduction of green taxes, carbon taxes, resource taxes, however you want to describe them, are only really going to be palatable, politically acceptable to the public if it's about different tax, not more tax. It's about trying to use tax to try and change behaviour, try and get people to do less of the environmentally damaging things, and shift the behaviour of society in a better direction. But just having people pay more tax on top of what they're already paying would be politically unacceptable. So I think there's a danger as well of relying too much on these kind of taxes. If we go too far down this road, then government will come to depend on the revenue from what people are paying for doing environmentally damaging behaviour, and that means government will have an incentive not to change behaviour. So it's got to be done with care and with a bit of balance in order to be effective and popular enough that people will vote.
Do you feel that with the current climate change, the problems, the new green laws need to be implemented and improve the climate on a more permanent basis?
Actually, in the wake of the Stern report, politicians around the world, not just in this country, are recognising that this is on the agenda now and it's not going away. There's an economic case now that's every bit as robust as I think the moral case already is for tackling climate change. Whether that means that the tax system remains the only tool that people are talking about seriously, I'm not so sure. I think we need to start looking at things like carbon quotas, individual personal carbon allowances that you can choose to use up or trade with other people. That would be a more socially just way of going than just talking about tax alone, eco-taxes alone. Ultimately, we are going to have to change the behaviour of the whole of society if we want to cut the carbon emissions down as dramatically as we need to. And one economy can't do that on its own, but we can make a start. We can give some leadership on this. And I think that the carbon allowances, allied to some taxes where appropriate, used carefully, maybe used sparingly, is the right way to go.
Do you think that with the introduction of the green taxes, more people will be encouraged to use the cycle to work scheme?
Certainly, if you're talking about transport, if you look at the way we design our towns and our cities, our public services as well, they give people really little options sometimes but to use the car. We need to be designing places to live that are, more friendly for walking and cycling. Walking and cycling still represent a huge number of journeys that people make every year, but increasingly people are switching to the car, switching to other forms of transport when they could be walking and cycling, and that would be healthier as well as more environmentally friendly. But what we absolutely need to do is give people the meaningful choices, give people an environment where they can make those choices rather than just try and use a stick only. We need to have a bit of carrot.
Do you see these taxes catching on and being introduced on a more permanent basis?
Eco-taxes have got a role to play. They're not the only tool that I would use. They're not the only tool in the box. They've got a role to play, but you need to be careful about how you use them. If, as I say, they come to represent a huge revenue stream for the government, if you shift the burden of taxation wholly away from things like income and onto resource consumption or carbon emissions, the government needs people to keep on doing those things in order to fund public services. That's why I feel pretty ambiguous when I hear Liberal Democrats talk about what they think is the green switch. They're in favour of expanding aviation, for example, building new runways, new terminals around the country. It seems pretty clear to me that they're looking for a taxation system that will give the government an incentive to keep people flying more, when really we need to be flying a bit less instead of 3 times as much. So if the green taxes or eco-taxes have a role to play, but they're not the only game in town. And if
Would your plea be to people who criticise the new scheme?
I would ask people to wait until we see some specific proposals. All parties are really trying to develop policy in this area. Our first attempt is about a system of carbon quotas, and I think that there's some sympathy for that across the political spectrum. Other parties are developing their tax plans. The Liberal Democrats have put some flesh on the bones there. The Conservatives and the Labour Party will do the same over the coming months. Wait and see what the proposals look like. I think it is possible to come up with a formula that's socially just and that allows people to have a good quality of life rather than just punishing people. But not doing anything is simply not an option. The society and economy that we've got at the moment cannot keep going the way it is. Climate change will become an irreversible damage to our planet and to our economy.
Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Okay.
That's really good. Some
No
good
problem.
points there. So, there you have it. Patrick Harvey. I'll be back on BBC One by the end of the week. Bye-bye now.